Welcome to Automation Hunter, the podcast for entrepreneurs and businesses ready to scale smarter. In this series, Apps, Hacks, and Bounties, your host, Will Christensen, dives into game-changing tools and strategies alongside special guests, sharing insights to boost productivity and solve real business challenges. Ready to innovate? Let's dive in.
Welcome to this episode of Automation Hunter. This is Apps, Hacks, and Bounties, and we've got Aaron Conant here. Aaron and I met been about a year, I think, maybe a little less. And it's funny that we hadn't met before we met because we know a lot of the same people in the e-commerce space.
Yeah, I think when your mutual connections are like in the hundreds.
Yeah, yeah. I think we were when we last looked, it was like 150 or something like that. Yeah. Different mutual connections on LinkedIn. So it's always interesting when you meet somebody like that because, like, oh wow, we have not crossed paths yet, and we know a lot of the same people, at least digitally. And I'm sure outside of that as well.
We both have a podcast. We both love to talk. We both love to connect. Like, I don't know how we haven't met, but
yeah, for real.
Before a year ago. Yeah, I think, was it Jeff Cohen who put us together?
Yeah. It was either Jeff or no, it was James Thompson.
Oh, James Thompson. Okay. Yes. James. James is a good dude. One of my favorite people in the world. That guy is awesome.
James is a freaking rock star.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, diving in here head first. We're looking for apps. Any app you've come across over the last year that you feel like has really upskilled your game at automating things, getting things out there for your business?
Yeah, I would say Opus Clips.
Okay.
It's just a platform. I do a lot of events. I do a lot of virtual events. So probably close to 250 webinars.
Wow.
Between myself and another moderator I brought on.
250 webinars?
Yeah. We try to put out at least 45.
Dude, you don't mess around.
Yeah. Well, what the platform does is then how do you share those ideas? How do you give tidbits to people? How do you capture like really good nuggets that people don't read as much anymore? Yeah. So you can basically just take the file, you drop it into Opus Clips, the AI goes in and it strips out. You can do whatever size segment you want, or you can just say, hey, optimize for, you can say, hey, I just want a 30-second, or I want a 2-minute, or I want a 5-minute, or you can say, hey, just go find all the nuggets, and it will kick out a transcribed video. And you just dump anything in there. So there's a subscription-based model based on how many you do and how much time it crunches. But it's just amazing. Time saver, right? That's all. We're trying to save time.
Yeah, everybody's trying to save time. Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned this. So my wife and I went to my kids' school, and when we got there, we actually, for Halloween, we dressed up as a witch and a wizard, and we did like a whole presentation with like we put plastic rats that we had washed in the dishwasher, washed before we brought them. And like we dumped them into this cauldron and then made like root beer in the cauldron. And the kids flipped. Like it was like, they were like going crazy. Well, I have some recording stuff, and I had my phone up there on a gimbal, and it was like, following us as we were talking and the whole bit. And we had the little lapel microphones that are professional grade and the whole bit. So I now have like 35 minutes, because we did it twice, one for each girl in each classroom, 35 minutes of like stuff. And I was like, none of my family's going to watch 35 minutes of that. Like, and I wanted to share it with my parents and my brothers and sisters because it's kind of fun. I'm going to go put that on Opus Clips and just see if I can get some good highlights out of that 35 minutes and then share that with my family.
Yeah. I mean, it's the cool thing that it also does, I think, is from like a LinkedIn standpoint, is it gives you titles. Right. And it's like anything else in the AI space. It's not necessarily, sometimes it really hits dead nuts on, and other times it doesn't, but at least gets you 90% of the way there.
Nice.
Now. So, a LinkedIn post, a really thoughtful one, would used to take 20 minutes to do. And in this case, because maybe longer if you have to splice and edit the video, but then to just get the right title, to have the right wording, all that fun stuff, this just gives it all to you. It's awesome. It's awesome.
To you on a silver platter. I love it. Okay. Second here, switching to hacks. So any hacks you'd like to share with the audience around, anything really. Imagining, I like to talk about conferences. You said 250. So was that the number?
Webinars. Yeah, we'll do, we try to push close to 100 in-person dinners, small format dinners.
I'm going to narrow this down a little bit. We're going to say webinars or in-person dinners. What thing have you started doing in your in-person interactions or in those webinars that you're like, not a lot of people recognize that all you got to do is X, Y, and Z, and you get way better results? Anything popping into your mind as I toss that out there for you?
Yeah, so a couple things. The first one is just around timing. Actually, the number one thing is getting people there. Nobody knows what they're doing more than 3 weeks out right now.
3 weeks out. Ooh, I like that. Okay.
So if you're planning an event Now this is outside of like a major, like a shop talk or something, or a Prosper show. If you're just planning a bespoke event, um, the the only people who are really going to show up are probably the ones that are added in the last 10 business days. So you have to have that at the back of your mind.
Oh,
When
that's
you're
fascinating. So the people who were added before those last 10 business days, like even if you re-email them to invite them again to like remind them, like generally it's still only the people in the last 10 days.
Yeah, I mean, percentage wise of who's going to
Oh,
actually show up, it's in that last 10 business days. You still get a portion of them, but the reality is nobody really knows what they're doing 3 to 4 weeks from now. And so we see that, a lot of people stub their toes in
wait a
that
minute.
space if they want
So is that for like paid dinners too, or just in
any
general?
event you want to do.
Any event you want to do.
Any event.
So
Yeah.
like from a standpoint of like telling your caterer how many people are actually going to show, do you use that 10-day window? Like, is that how you usually measure, or are you always trying to make sure you have more food?
So the dinners that we're doing, they're all plated service. So in those cases, you
Ah,
have a minimum food and beverage that you have to hit. So we'll
nice.
hit it. But what it allows us to do is know, because if you email everybody a month out and you get 30 people signed up to say yes,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people just sit back and say, hey, I got it. A lot of times the partners we have, the service providers, they have an internal events person. They plan out the whole year. They invite people right away.
Yeah.
That is just tough, right? They think that they're good. And then they get to a reminder email 3 days before the event, and 95% of the people are like, sorry, I can't make it. I've had a change of plans. So when you're planning for those, and that allows you to then adjust to know, hey, there's probably 10% of these people. Now, again, like, is this different if it's a guaranteed a huge event, right? Like in your case, your personal life, a birthday party, obviously people, you invite them, they're going to show up. These are like professional events is what I would apply that to. So the flip side is, when you want to have a follow-up conversation at any of these events, there's people you've talked to before, new people that you want to make sure that you connect with. And so the one thing about scheduling time with people is you can't make them go look at their calendar for a bunch of random times and expect them to
Okay.
give back times
Okay.
to you. It is in that email follow-up, which is this is the best way to do it. You can
Yeah.
do it on LinkedIn. People like it, but if you have their email address and you just send them an email that says, hey, it was great meeting you. Would love to find a time to network and knowledge share. How
Got
does
it.
next, and this is the part, is you have to be very specific on a day and a time. How does next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time work for you? Looking forward to it. And that's small, concise, but you're giving them a very specific day and time. And then what they do is it naturally triggers something. I wonder if I'm free at that day and time. You've eliminated any of the hardness of them going and finding a time to connect. And our
Interesting.
brains like simple tasks. And I can go do this as a simple task and just check and see, oh yeah, Tuesday at 3 p.m. I'm open. Or I look and I'm not open, and 3:30 works. And then they'll reply back, hey, can't do 3, but I can do 3:30 that day. Looking forward to it. It's before and
Interesting.
after. It's it's all about time.
Do you,
Right? That's the reality.
so I usually give 2 times, like, and I actually will usually phrase it in not a yes, no question. So I like to ask, like, would this time or this time be better for you?
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to like assume the sale, so to speak, right? Like assume they're just going to want to meet. And I found that I get good results. I'm curious if you've ever tried 2 times.
No, but I'll try that rewording.
Yeah.
I mean, I run a giant networking group,
Yeah.
so I can also add in there, hey, I don't sell anything, so there's not going to be a sales pitch, which really helps because then I've already met them, and when I've already met them, of course, yeah, I like it because I've already met them. We had a good conversation.
love
They know
that.
I don't want to try to be their agency. I just want to have a good conversation. So I can assume because they told me they'd like to reconnect that they're going to want to reconnect. So no, that's great. I think I'll try it. It's awesome.
That is really cool. Okay. So shifting to our last one here. This is a bounty. So I like to ask this question, and I like to introduce a way of thinking about it that a lot of people haven't considered. Have you heard of constraint theory?
Ooh, I don't know if I have. I'm gonna throw
It's
something
basically the theory that's all about bottlenecks.
Yeah, my wife is an industrial engineer, process
Nice.
engineer.
Nice.
So yes, you go work on the bottleneck. So I don't know if it's been called
Love it.
constraint theory, but
Yes.
you go to the bottleneck. Yes.
So later when you're at dinner, be like, so honey, constraint theory says for this complex process, there can only be one bottleneck. And she'll roll her eyes at you like, really? You just told me that?
yeah.
So constraint theory really is any complex system. So your business right now, and you've got different veins of it, has a bottleneck, but it only has one. And the important thing to recognize is if you focus on something that is not the true bottleneck, it's not actually going to help the business grow.
Right.
And so my curiosity to you, Aaron, is in either side of your business, because I know you've got the dinner side, you've got the webinar side. Where's the bottleneck?
Right now, for me, the bottleneck is people. And the reason I say that is, and this is internal, just employees, just trying to expand a business thoughtfully, but I live in the digital space.
Okay.
And what we're seeing take place right now over the past couple of years, and now it's even accelerating even more with AI, is the number of really, really cool tools that are out there, like that are just accelerating businesses left and right.
Mm-hmm.
I spend the majority of my time just talking to brands one-on-one. I try to do 20 to 30 a week. That's every vertical. The startup, the Fortune 100, like it doesn't matter. There are so many, the new tools are being developed at such a rapid pace that actually work, not these older tools that were like a mechanical Turk, right? Like, hey, it's AI, it's machine learning, but really it was just going data overseas, overnight, hands on keyboards, and then coming back. It sounds like, I don't know how we tackle it here, but it's just ramped up in the past 6 months. Is how do you control quality, right, of events and who's there and the interaction, because we encourage interaction at all the events.
Yep.
And just consistently put that level of event on when the number of cool new tech working service providers is doubling every 6 months now. So, I don't know if that's so I'll pause there.
Yeah. So when you say, my big challenge here is that I have all of these different opportunities that are coming through the plate, and it's a people problem. Is that too many service providers to pay attention to? Not sure how to find the right one. What is constraining the system to grow around too many service providers?
Oh yeah. So I would say, as we dig into it, right, let's go one level deeper. It's actually getting these best in class. I'm a connector. How do we get these brand new, best in class, really cool, efficient, low cost, new tech partners in front of as many people as possible? And maybe that isn't via an event. Maybe that's a newsletter. Maybe that's kicking something else off. A new product as a whole.
So what you're saying is, my biggest challenge is I keep finding tools that I think are actually going to work, and I've verified it with 3 or 4 different brands, and I'm like, crap, I don't have a venue to showcase this guy on, and I really want to, because my goal here is to help these brands, and there's just straight up not a medium that's going to make that a reality.
Correct. Right. Yep.
So I totally think where your brain just went. And one thing I've found about our brains is that when we hand it a bottleneck, they will relentlessly attack that bottleneck until our subconscious is like, oh, try a newsletter. Or, we as human beings are very good bottleneck solvers. Like that's part of our makeup as we kind of get in there and pick that apart. So I agree with you. A newsletter sounds interesting. I mean, video content, like you just talked about, sounds interesting. Another thought that I've had, and just on the idea of bounties here, a lot of times the bounty turns into like, oh, let's go find an app that does X, Y, or Z, and we'll go dive in on that. In this situation, I feel like it's more process oriented. But yeah, sounds like you need another medium.
I do.
A medium that doesn't scale on people, a medium that can be, the majority of the work around that medium goes in there.
Yes. And then somebody to manage it. It's more work. So it is, but hey, let's go. That's really at the end of the day what it is I started off on the brand side in big corporate America and struggling to find the right service providers, the right connections, and was tired of getting just sales pitches. And then like you get to somebody who works by talking to other brands and asking them, right, who worked for you, right? Who's working right now? Who's not working? Who would you do business again? Who would you never do business with again? And
Aaron, so Automation Hunter, the brand, is literally about finding apps that work, right? That's our entire mission. So there could be an interesting synergistic opportunity here for us where we partner and you take the content and release it to the group, and Automation Hunter does the review. Like, put me on a demo, go through, take the full demo. Then I go in and take Opus and chop it all up in its perfect format, and then you can release it, and you don't have to worry about it at all in terms of the content and the creation and all of that kind of stuff. And we'll collaborate on the format and all of that kind of stuff. There could be an opportunity where, because that's what I want. I want content, and I'm dang good at evaluating tools. So
awesome. We'll do it. That's a follow-up.
Bounty check mark. All right. That's it for this episode of Apps, Hacks, and Bounties. I'm your host, Will Christensen. And Aaron, how can people get a hold of you if they want to get in touch?
Ping me on LinkedIn. It's just Aaron Conant. I'm at BWG Connect. I've got a podcast, Digital Deep Dive. Shoot me an email, Aaron, AARON at bwgconnect.com. Any of those, I'm up for a chat. So
all right.
awesome, my friend.
Out.
Thanks, Will.